In this video, I'm going to show you, if you're in your 20s and 30s, why the single greatest habit you can build is journaling. Most people today, if you look at people in their 40s and 50s, they're filled with a lot of regret. They end up in careers and situations and locations that they never thought they'd end up. They live with a lot of regrets. And a lot of that comes from not having the ability to be self-aware. They work in these same positions in these same companies for 30, 40 years and end up in a place or a career or a family that they never wanted or they never even thought they could have. And they're just filled with all this regret. And so I think a big reason for that is because that a lot of people lack self-awareness or the skill of self-awareness. The key to building that, which I'm glad I'm learning in my 20s, and I hope I can speak to you as a younger version of me in your 20s and 30s, is cultivating self-awareness. Self-awareness allows you to examine your situation from a non-biased perspective, from a 30,000-foot view, and assess whether you're on track with some of the goals and ideas that you have, or if you're off track and you're going towards a direction or a path of life that isn't where you want to be. And so a lot of people, they're stuck in the day-to-day, in the rat race. They take one day at a time, and it ends up accumulating into a completely different reality than they wanted or that they had in hindsight. People say they want to do all these things like travel or start their own business, but they never understand where they are and the actions that need to take place in order to achieve that dream life. A lot of times people have these aspirational goals and ideals, and they work on something that has nothing to do with those goals. And so they end up 10 years from now in the same position that they were 10 years prior. So we don't want that to happen. We don't want to take a look back 10 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, and think where all the time went. How do we end up here? How do we end up in a situation with a partner who doesn't love me, with a location that I hate, or a career that I despise? How do we end up here? It comes from a lack of self-awareness in the moment. And the key to building that self-awareness is journal every single day. That's what I do. I'll share my routine a little bit. But journaling, like I said, is what allows you to observe your reality from an objective perspective and analyze, what are the actions that I'm doing today? Are they going in the right direction or are they going in the wrong direction? And how can I change my actions so that they align with my future vision or the life that I want for my family, my partner, my children, my girlfriend, stuff like that. There are different ways you could journal. A lot of people journal through the 5-minute journal, like gratitude journaling, setting up your mind right for the day, approaching life from a state of gratitude. But the way that I like to think about journaling is I think of journaling in two ways. So number one, journaling is a way to think on paper. A lot of times when I have a lot of built up anxiety or emotions, I like to journal because it allows me to get all my mind into a sheet of paper, and people call it brain dump. It's a common term in knowledge work, brain dumping. So getting all of the stuff that's in your head and getting on paper. David Allen from Getting Things Done says our brains are for having ideas, not holding them. And so capturing on paper is a way to get all the gunk out. And once you get all the gunk out, you operate from a state of clarity and a state of conviction and direction, because you get all of this fog out of your brain. Journaling, especially in the morning, helps you with that. And so if you go into a gym, you do warm-up sets before you hit your working sets. Similarly, with journaling, I do it first thing in the morning because it warms up my brain. It gets all of the gunk and the cobwebs out. It gets my brain booted up and moving so that when I dive into deeper work, I operate from a better mindset so that I can perform better. Even before speaking, another benefit of journaling is that you can think through what you want to say before you say it. This video, for example, I did a whole journaling session on things that I want to bring up, certain phrases. That all comes from journaling, and since you write it out, you get it out of your head, it allows you to speak it more clearly, more articulately, as if you thought of it before and you've already rehearsed it because you already did on paper. The other way I like to use journaling is through decisions. I mentioned before that journaling, I like to think on paper. Journaling allows you to plan, allows you to be strategic, allows you to think through moves ahead of time. It allows you to play out certain scenarios. It allows you to forecast best base case. What would happen if I did this? How would I feel about that? What would happen if I did this? What would happen if something happened? If we moved to Puerto Rico, what would happen? If I quit my job and I started over and what would I do? And so when you use this sort of journaling, it builds your skill of decision making, and it allows you to make quicker, higher quality decisions that have better, longer term impact, because since you're thinking on paper, you're able to think in first order, second order, third order consequences. And you're able to think like a chess grandmaster who thinks 5 moves ahead, 10 moves ahead. You're able to stay ahead of life because you forecast possible scenarios. You outline the worst possible thing that could happen. You outline your fears of taking action. Your fears of, oh, what if this doesn't work out? Well, actually, if it doesn't work out, then I can just do X, Y, Z. If I don't start that business, worst case is I can just get a job somewhere. If you outline a lot of that stuff in journaling, your stress levels will just overall go down as another reason. And you'll operate from a greater sense of peace and a greater sense of proactivity, because a lot of life that we've been scared of and haven't really faced, we've thought about and we worked through on paper. A person who I learned a lot of journaling from is Nicholas Cole. He owns a portfolio of writing businesses online. He has a whole course dedicated to decision journaling. And he considers journaling going to the emotional gym because it allows you to work on your emotional issues and your problems and wrestle with that stuff and really go toe to toe with underlying deeper things that you've been putting away or feeling. And so there's really a lot of benefit that can come from journaling, a lot of clarity and conviction, and a lot of emotional growth that comes from just journaling. How I journal is I set anywhere from 15 minutes to 30 minutes every single morning, right after I get up and work out, shower. First thing I do at my desk is I journal. I talk about what happened yesterday, things that are on my mind, how I'm feeling about the day, things that I need to do, what would certain scenarios of how conversations will play out. Oh, I need to talk to my doctor, XYZ. Here's the things that I want to bring up. I got to talk to my boss. I'm considering a job. Here's the estimated pay structure. Here's what would happen if I hit on-time earnings. This is how much I would make. This is how much I make at a minimum. That sort of forecasting is what I tend to do on a daily basis. And it allows me to operate from a sense of clarity, a sense of direction, and a sense of calmness in my brain, because a lot of it's brain dump. That's what a lot of it is. Set the habit, and the habit will help you. Just trust me on that. Just set the habit, 15 minutes a morning, and it'll take you far. It's one of those. There's a very few real atomic habits, like in James Clear's book, Atomic Habits. Very small habits that go to the smallest detail that compound and create bigger and better things. Journaling is really one of those things. The great thing about journaling consistently is that your words flow more the more you do it. One of the things that I like about journaling on a computer compared to pen and paper still works great. What I like about journaling on a computer and typing is sorry, my dog sneezed. When you write on pen and paper, there's a little bit of friction between your thoughts and getting them on paper. And so when you type, it's much faster to type a word than it is to write a word by hand. And so there's less friction between your thought and the page. So it's easier to get your thoughts onto the page and get deeper into what you're really thinking. So my recommendation is try type journaling, and if you don't like it, always switch to pen and paper. I keep a notebook with me also if I want to, and I have tons and tons of written notes as well. So try it for a week, try it for 30 days, and see how it goes. Trust me on that. We'll talk soon.